Lights, camera, action.
Hey everybody, welcome back to another review, and today we're going to be talking about the newest film, Over Your Dead Body. So essentially in this movie we follow a couple who is in this estranged marriage who kind of go off to this cabin for the weekend where you think they're going to try to work things out and fix it, but in reality they're actually both plotting to kill each other. So this is a movie I really didn't know a lot about. I really knew more about the cast than anything else, and I found out that this was premiered at like South by Southwest and maybe a few other festivals, and everybody really raved about it and talked about how just great it was and funny it was. So it was already on my radar again because of the cast, because of Jason Segel and Samara Weaving, our queen. So this one for sure was on my radar, and then I kind of stayed. I think I saw one little snippet of a trailer, but that was about it. But the premise alone hooked me, along with the talent. I knew this was going to be pretty good. And I'm here to tell you that this movie is a ton of fun. It is, it's a lot of fun. It has a really great premise with really great execution to that premise, and just a lot of fun little beats all throughout the movie. So getting right into it, our two leads, I think they have fantastic chemistry together. I think Jason Segel is somebody that I've always loved. I think he's always been a fantastic actor. I've always seen him in comedy, but it's been good recently to see him more in dramatic stuff. Like, I love the show Shrinking, but he is funny in that as well. But even seeing like some movies he did, like one in particular called Our Friend that came out in like 2020 that I really enjoyed. I really want to check out more of his dramatic stuff, but in this one he finds a really great balance. And with Samara Weaving, of course, you can't go wrong with her. She's this new scream queen that is in a ton of movies now. That this is her genre. This is her wheelhouse. And in my eyes and a lot of other people's eyes, I just don't think she can do no wrong. Like, she is an actress that really excites me, that I'll go see anything that she's in. And luckily we're getting 3 movies with her this year, so this is number 2, so I can't wait to see number 3. She's somebody that I'll always support, and I just think she just nails roles like this, and she just gives it everything she's got, and she couldn't be a more perfect match. But I think the two of them have perfect chemistry in this movie. There is so many parts where they are just back and forth with each other, and you believe everything that they're saying to each other. You believe that they're this married couple that is really estranged from each other, and they really just know how to give it back and forth to each other. And it's just so believable and so real, and it is so hysterical with some of the stuff that they do. And it's all played up to their performances. Yes, it can be funny on paper, or you can look at it and be like, yeah, I don't know if this will really work on paper, but having them, like, with their performances and the way that they do these line deliveries with certain stuff is absolutely hysterical. And it's one of those things that I don't think would have worked out as well if we didn't have two believable co-leads in this that had such great chemistry with each other. And getting into these other 3 characters that are introduced later on in the movie, with Timothy Olyphant and Juliette Lewis, and I think his name is Keith Jardine, which I do believe is a UFC fighter. Don't quote me on that, but I'm pretty sure he is for UFC. But I think all of them, when they get introduced to them, they come about maybe a little bit more than halfway into the movie. But when they are introduced into this film, they are just as hysterical. They have great chemistry, not only with each other, but with our 2 co-leads. And the stuff that they do back and forth and some of the line deliveries that they have is just fantastic. Timothy Olyphant is another one of those actors that I've always really enjoyed, that I think no matter what character he plays, he's always got some kind of cool and suave thing to him. Even when he's playing bad characters, like, there's still something that is so charming about him that you're like, I know you're a bad person, but there's a part of me that still would like to go maybe hang out and get a beer with you. And the same thing goes for their characters. Maybe in the script or on paper, maybe it wouldn't really seem all that funny how that stuff is written out, but the way they go about performing it in those scenes and really making it their own, and the delivery of the lines, for example, I think it is just so funny, and they hit so well. And this is a movie where I think all of the comedy all throughout the movie is all of it's funny. All of it landed and all of it hit for me. Obviously, there's more jokes that hit more than others, but it depends on who you are, because just like horror, comedy is very subjective. But there was 2 or 3 scenes in this movie in particular that I was hunched over really laughing at, that I thought was hysterical. But even for the rest of the movie, I still found myself really laughing and chuckling all throughout the movie, just because it is that type of movie. Not only just for the line deliveries, but for the physical comedy that comes into play later on too. There's so much of that, and that mixed in with line deliveries, it's honestly perfect. It's just a great comedy. I also really love the storytelling of this movie as well. I think it's told in a particular fashion that makes it rewatchable in a way. Like it's a pretty narrative, straightforward story, but there are scenes in the movie where you get like these not really chapter breaks, but where these flashback sequences will happen from other characters. It'll be like, oh, 3 hours earlier or 2 days ago or something like that. So we get to see this story in different ways, told from different perspectives, where it might not seem like it's all that much in the time when you're watching it for the first time, but it's like the little things. Like there's a scene where a key is moved early on in the movie, and you're like, that kind of lingered on that, so you're wondering why. But then later on, you get the context of why the key was moved or where it was moved, and it kind of gives you a sense of rewatchability to it. 'Cause you're like, oh, that's interesting. And then there's other scenes as well that happen all throughout the movie to where you're like, oh, that's cool. So like when you watch it for the first time, when you're thinking back on it, you're like, oh, okay, that's why that was there, or that's why this was here, or this is why that character thought that was this. So it's a really cool thing that you can go back and kind of rewatch and be like, oh, that's cool. Now I see that from that character's perspective, or I see it through this. It's just one of those really cool things that really make it rewatchable, but really has a really cool way of storytelling. And it's not one of those things that's too jolting or anything like that really kind of take you out of the story by any means. It's very much present in what it's talking about, but it's nothing that ever feels like it's a big tonal whiplash where you're in the middle of a scene and then all of a sudden something, just takes you out of it and you're following this. It is very, very great with how it weaves all that throughout the movie, and it's just a job well done. I also love the different tones that this movie has as well. This movie is legit a melting pot of different things, and it pulls everything off so well. It's like a comedy mixed with sort of a romance movie, mixed with a thriller and a drama, and even with, what I was talking about earlier with how you view different stories, it kind of adds a little bit of a mystery element into it, which I really liked about it. But it has so much different flavors all throughout the movie, and nothing is ever off about it. Nothing is ever thrown one way or another. Like, you never feel like, oh, this has been too much of that, so it takes away from this element of it, or it's too much of that, so it takes away too much of this. No, it never does that at all. It finds its balance, and it rides that line perfectly all throughout the movie. And like I said, it just never once feels like you're watching like these huge tonal shifts of different movies by any means. It knows its lane and what it's going for, and it sticks that landing all throughout the movie. And this movie does a great job of kind of taking you off guard with certain things. Like, you kind of get so wrapped up in the story of what's going on when stuff comes later on in the movie that you're like, it's stuff you wasn't expecting. Like, I'll admit, there is some great over-the-top just violence in this movie that I was not expecting whatsoever. Like, I could expect a little bit of it based on the plot of the movie, but overall, where some of it goes, I legit was like in the theater like, oh shit! Oh shit! So it's played for like those over-the-top things, but man, it goes for it. But it's that thing where it's like it mixes with that over-the-top violence with comedic elements, and my God, does it land, and it is so funny. But I'm telling you, when it goes for the violence, man, it really goes for it. Not set in like the tone of like Terrifier or anything by that matter, but just really in a movie that I was not expecting this type of over-the-top violence. It's there, and it's it really goes for it. And like I said, I like it because it's in this way that it's not, you weren't expecting it at all. Like I said, you can kind of expect a little bit of it based on, like I said, what the movie is going for. But when you in these first two acts, you're kind of disarmed by it a little bit. So your guard's let down and you're kind of into the movie. So when this stuff ramps up again for the third act, like I said, it just really catches you off guard. And it's honestly a nice surprise. But like I said, it's still just as humorous because it just knows the movie it's in. So all of it flows together so perfectly. And it's a really great way of setting up this movie too, is you never really know where the story's going to go. You never know what direction it's going to take you in, because while, yes, you have your basic plot set up, when these other characters are introduced, you really don't know where you're going to go, how things are going to go, how it's going to end, or anything like that. And even though that these characters were really, our two co-leads were really plotting to kill each other, you still have this sympathy for them. You still care about them, and you still want them to try to work things out in a certain way. And I think that's just a great way of keeping you on your toes, because you not only do you care for the characters, but you want to see them get out of this. You really want to kind of see them reconcile at the end of it, even though they were going to do these horrendous things to each other. And I think that could just be a testament of Jason Segel and Samara Weaving. But I think it's just great ways to make you care about the characters. But like I said, I also like it because you don't know where the story's going to go. It's just enough to keep you interested and to keep you on the edge to where you're like, I have no clue how this is going to end, but I have to see it through to the end. And really going back to what I said about Samara Weaving and Jason Segel's character, I think it's one of those testaments too that if you've ever been in a relationship or you've ever been married or you are married or anything like that, their banter back and forth is so funny because I think it's so relatable to a lot of people. I think there's a lot of people that can kind of look at that and really be like, yeah, I've been there before. Not really so much for wanting to kill your spouse or anything, obviously, but just in those arguments that they have with each other, how they kind of just the bickering back and forth just feels so real and authentic that I think that's another thing that just plays up the comedy so well and really just adds an extra element to it. So that's something that I really appreciated. Now, really, the only mixed element I have about this movie is that this is a remake of a movie that came out not too long ago, back in 2021, called The Trip, and it's a Norwegian movie. Now, if you are a fan of that movie, or if you know anything about that movie, for example, I don't know if this movie will hit as hard as for you as it did for me. But then again, I have never seen that version. I haven't seen it at all, so I don't know how much things are different or if anything is changed up or if maybe that one is more of a thriller more than it is a comedy. I don't know anything about it, but it is on Netflix, so I thought about actually checking it out now that I've seen this movie because I'm curious to see if how much of it is the same or how much of it is different, because it's one of those things, like I said, if you're a fan of that movie, I don't know if you will go into this movie walking out and being like, yeah, it was good, but I've seen it before already. But other than that, I really don't think I had any negatives or anything really bad to say about this movie because I just had a freaking blast with it from start to finish. It is a movie just from the beginning that really kind of hooked me in, and I was on board for this ride. And the ride that it takes you on is just so fun and funny and bloody and over the top that it's just a great, fun theater experience. And if you can, try to go see this movie with a packed house, because I think the more people you have in there, the more you are going to laugh. But the little bit of people that I had in my theater, they were still even laughing, and I was laughing with them. So it's just a great communal experience to have. So this is one I definitely recommend checking out in the theaters because it is so much fun, and it is just so worth your time.
Can you not crush the garlic? It needs to be sliced.
Yes, chef! This could be.
Thank you, everybody. That is my review for Over Your Dead Body. If this is the review that you're finding me on, please come on over to the channel and check out all my other 2026 reviews so far. I have a pretty big backlog at this point. And as always, if you have seen this movie, please comment below and let me know what you thought about it. And if you have seen the original, please let me know what the differences are between maybe this one and the remake or the original. I'd just like to know if there is any differences for that matter. But it's just something I'd like to know. Just comment that down below and let's talk about it. And as always, please remember to like, comment, and subscribe. That way I can see all of you in the next one. Thank you so very, very much.